Welcome to Mukijo YouTube channel. I don't think people understand the depth of the Israel-Palestine conflict. A century of conflict, setting the stage. The Israel-Palestine conflict is one of the most enduring and complex conflicts in modern history. It is rooted in competing claims to the same land. Both Palestinians and Israelis see the region as their rightful homeland. This shared history is filled with conflict and suffering. In the early 20th century, Palestine was under Ottoman rule. Jewish people seeking refuge from persecution in Europe began migrating to Palestine. This migration increased after World War I. The British took control of Palestine after the war. They faced the difficult task of balancing the aspirations of both the Jewish and Arab populations. Tensions rose as both sides vied for control. Violence erupted periodically. The British struggled to find a solution. The situation became increasingly untenable. World War II further complicated matters. The Holocaust, with its horrors, strengthened the resolve for a Jewish state. The stage was set for a tumultuous future. The question of Palestine's fate remained unresolved. It became a pressing issue on the world stage. The seeds of conflict were sown. The world watched as the situation in Palestine continued to deteriorate. Partition and Exodus: the birth of a nation and a refugee crisis. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan to divide Palestine. This plan, known as the UN Partition Plan, aimed to create two states, one Jewish and one Arab. The plan was met with mixed reactions. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan. They saw it as a path to statehood. However, the Arab leadership rejected it. They saw it as an injustice. They felt the plan favored the Jewish population. The situation on the ground deteriorated. Violence erupted between Jewish and Arab communities. In 1948, Israel declared independence. This declaration triggered a war with neighboring Arab states. The war resulted in a decisive victory for Israel. However, it came at a heavy cost. Over 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes. This displacement, known as the Nakba or catastrophe in Arabic, remains a deeply traumatic event in Palestinian history. The war had far-reaching consequences. It redrew the map of the Middle East. Israel emerged as a new nation, but it also created a Palestinian refugee crisis that continues to this day. The conflict had entered a new and even more complex phase. The hope for a peaceful resolution seemed distant. The world struggled to cope with the aftermath of the war. Wars and occupation, the spiral of violence. The decades following the 1948 war saw a cycle of violence. Wars erupted in 1956, 1967, and 1973. Each conflict deepened the divide between Israelis and Palestinians. The 1967 war, known as the Six-Day War, was particularly significant. Israel captured the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. These territories, home to millions of Palestinians, remain under Israeli control today. Israel's occupation of these territories became a major point of contention. The construction of Israeli settlements in the West Bank further inflamed tensions. Palestinians viewed these settlements as illegal and an obstacle to peace. The international community also largely condemned the settlements. The occupation had a profound impact on Palestinian lives. Checkpoints, restrictions on movement, and land confiscation became part of daily life. The Palestinian economy suffered under the weight of the occupation. The dream of an independent Palestinian state seemed increasingly elusive. Frustration and despair grew within the Palestinian population. Section 4: Gaza and the West Bank: flashpoints of a modern crisis. Today, Gaza and the West Bank are flashpoints in the conflict. Gaza, a densely populated coastal strip, has been under Israeli blockade since 2007. The blockade, imposed after Hamas, a Palestinian Islamist group, took control of Gaza, has severely restricted the flow of goods and people. This has led to a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, with high rates of poverty and unemployment. The West Bank, meanwhile, faces its own set of challenges. Israeli settlements continue to expand, encroaching on Palestinian land. Checkpoints and the separation barrier restrict Palestinian movement and economic activity. Tensions frequently erupt between Palestinians and Israeli settlers. The situation remains volatile and unpredictable. Peace talks have repeatedly failed to bridge the divide. Both sides blame the other for the lack of progress. Trust is in short supply. The two-state solution, once seen as the most viable path to peace, is increasingly questioned. The future remains uncertain. A lasting solution seems distant. Section 5. A global dilemma, seeking a path to peace. The Israel-Palestine conflict is not just a regional issue. It has global ramifications. The conflict fuels tensions in the Middle East. It complicates international relations. And it sparks protests and debates worldwide. The conflict is a reminder of the human cost of unresolved disputes. Finding a path to peace is a daunting task. Both sides have legitimate grievances. Years of violence and mistrust have created deep scars, but the need for a just and lasting solution is more urgent than ever. The international community has a responsibility to help broker peace, but ultimately it is up to Israelis and Palestinians to find a way to coexist peacefully. The alternative is continued suffering for both peoples. If you found this video informative, please subscribe, like, and share to support our channel. Thank you for watching.